there is
That
Ramiz
seems like,
hiding.
yes. Well, now we have an opportunity to work with Ramiz 1-to-1, eh? Or 2-to-1, if he comes out of hiding.
I don't know. Maybe he's doing something. Let's see.
Are you there, Ramiz? Ramiz? Maybe not.
Yes.
Okay.
1 minute.
Yes. And Lennart.
Hey, long time no see.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Ramiz, I'm particularly interested in how you frequently don't have your camera turned on, and I imagine it's something to do with a feeling of safety. Would that be right?
No, usually I would have the light off,
Oh, okay.
so
It's a
it doesn't
technical
matter.
thing. Right. Okay. So, wow, I was right out of the park there, wasn't I? Yes. Yeah. Okay. That came up for me because there's a lady in New Zealand that I work with on the forum, and she's seen through the gate, but at the same time she's still enveloped in doubt, a lot of doubt, and I can't get her to come to the meeting. She's so self-conscious. She doesn't want to show herself, so to speak, you know. And there's another lady I spoke to recently who's maybe the same. You know, I don't get a chance to find out, but yeah, she's a bit reluctant to join a large group because I'm not sure why. It's maybe, yeah. And anyway, so that's just in the forefront of my mind. I guess that's why I was asking you that. Yeah. So
If you're asking, I'm self-conscious.
you do?
It's also, yeah, I am.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, it's something I can't relate to. I haven't got what it is in me to relate to being self-conscious. I can remember I used to be really self-conscious when I was young, but I can't remember what it feels like. I can't get a hold of it anymore. Maybe because I'm old now and I don't give a rat's about what people think of me. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. So last time we were speaking to you, Ramiz, there was some pretty big stuff happening for you. Has that processed at all?
Yeah, I was trying to, it's not trying, just feeling into these like contractions and the fear of loneliness and this desire to control or to make someone responsible for my feelings, or I start to understand more clearly how people manipulate each other and make others responsible for how they feel. And this encounter with my ex-girlfriend was very like revealing how this desire of push and pull, like I'm too scared to feel guilt that I want you to control you, to not feel angry at me, to uh, not to leave, not to. So it's like I don't want to feel this, and I will do whatever to not feel it.
Mm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and I also notice it, like she's doing the same. And we have a call yesterday, and it felt like I'm feeling this more physically, but she's still like in the story, or who made who feels what. And for me it's like it's not your fault or my fault. It's just conditioning, and my feeling is my responsibility. You can't trigger something in me that isn't already here. And it, I felt a kind of disconnection. It's like each one is in a different level of relating to the experience. And I felt there was a difficult feeling of like, you are not responsible for how I feel. Let me feel it. Like, let me feel this feeling of abandonment or feeling of loneliness. You try to like rescue me or save me from this feeling, but you don't have to. It's my feeling, and you don't need me to save you from your feelings. You can feel them also. And at some level it felt more, I felt more disconnection even. It's like there was this invitation to play this game that I don't want to play anymore. And it felt like a breakup at some level.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? And as you're talking, I'm hearing you when you say you're not responsible for what I'm feeling, there's an implication that the other way around is equally true. And that could be confronting. And that is that you are not responsible for what she feels. And that could be a bit confronting for her, perhaps. And she wants to see you as responsible for whatever comes up in her because she's responding to what you say. At least she thinks she's responding to something outside of herself and not recognizing that she's responding to what it is that you trigger in her. So that's a double-edged sword, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, I was recognizing this. This is why it felt like a disconnection.
Yes, yes. And so it inhibits connectivity. It inhibits intimacy maybe as well.
But I feel like there's two levels of connection,
Yes.
like a connection at the level of mind or at the level of, I don't know, like not mine.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I
I
like
agree with you perfectly. You're right. You're absolutely right in what you say there. But it's how you present it to her that is an issue for her, not so much an issue for you. So you were clarifying for yourself this as you were thinking it, weren't you? That was quite clear the way you said it. I loved it. Yeah.
I feel like there's an opportunity to connect more deeply.
Yes. if she were to continue to see you as responsible for what she feels, would that play havoc with that more deep connection?
I don't know.
So would you say then, another way to put this, would a deeper connection, and if she were to see what you were saying and understand and even agree with what you were saying, then you two would have a much deeper connection, wouldn't you? So
I think it depends on if there is agenda for the connection.
oh, that's a tricky one. Does it? Yeah, well, of course, yes, we have to define what an agenda is, I guess, here. But of course, I mean, a connection is a reward in itself. And of course, a reward, there's always an agenda for a reward, isn't there? Because it feels good. So are you saying by agenda that if there's some manipulation going on for another purpose by agenda?
Yeah,
Did she understand what you were saying?
she told me that how I understood the encounter as I was upset of feeling rejection,
Mm-hmm.
and she wants to apologize for me or to make me feel better. And I just said, it's not your
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
And it's like she said, like it's like she's trying to play a role, and I just took this role from her. Like
Yes.
then
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to be or say or
Yes,
to
yes, yes,
relate to you. And
yes. So that apology was a bit of manipulation, eh? Was you were meant to respond in a defined manner to that apology, and so it was forcing you to into a role.
and what I felt is she the feeling of her being responsible is just it's already in her. It was just triggered. It wasn't me creating the feeling. And she didn't see this, and um, and I also felt like and this is just my theory. I'm not sure. How I feel is just she was angry at me, but she was scared to be angry at me. And her conditioning is to feel sorry for me and to please me. And it's like, it's like I'm giving her the invitation. You can actually feel your feelings.
Mm, mm.
You can feel angry at me, sad. You
Yes.
can feel your feelings, and it's like, no, I want to play this game where we hide in this story to not feel this.
Mm, mm. Yes. Okay. Something else is coming up for me here, and that is that this is not a new relationship. This is a one that's existed before, right? And before you did play games with her and she played games with you, and now you're wanting to play a different game and she's a bit lost because she's doesn't know what the new game is.
Yes.
For me, it says you've changed. You're a changed person, and she's going to put a pressure on you to go back to the way you used to be because she was comfortable there. She knew about you there. Now she doesn't know who you are, which is a bit uncomfortable for her, probably.
Yeah, she once told me that when she talks about me to me, it's like she's talking to different person about different person.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's good, but it's hard. Yeah. And you want to bring her along into the new thing when you're telling her this stuff, but she's a little bit doesn't know about it, eh? She's a bit reluctant, maybe. Maybe not. Do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling some kind of attachment still, holding on.
Hmm.
To what? To what are you holding on?
The story, the connection, like this energy of seeking, or this heaviness that's being avoided in being in a story, in a it seems like everything is just a coping mechanism to not feel this.
For you or for her?
For me.
Hmm.
But I think you start to have to see that a lot, if not every human relation we have, it's about coping. Almost all of them. It's and I think what you see, it I resonate with it a lot. Like you start to feel and understand that you everything is in you. Your emotion, the cause of the emotion, the healing, everything is in you. And that's very powerful because this um you start to become your own authority, or you start to see already that you are your own authority. Wait, I'm distracted because there was a message here on the. Okay. Okay, ciao, Leonard. He cannot stay. Ciao. Yeah, I think it's very important. It's very important. And when you start to see this, what I'm hearing is it start to shake your actual relationship balance with this person, and it will probably with others. And because we enter in relationship out of fear and lack and coping and addiction, when someone stop to play the game, the other one start to feel exactly what he doesn't want to feel. So that start to be uncomfortable when you stop playing those games. I think I feel it's a beautiful place where you are.
It's
would say there is so much freedom and so much peace and connection in being with someone and not expecting anything from the other of any kind. It's beautiful.
I don't think I'm in this place. It's like I'm seeing the mechanism of seeking in action in real time. It's like this energy of grasping and
Mm.
What are you feeling?
the body is shaking. It's like I'm trying to not to fall.
What would happen if you stopped trying not to?
It feels like endless falling. I've been trying to relax and like lie in bed and relax. And it feels like that relaxing is endless. It's like I'm melting in the bed and I haven't felt like I already landed. Like there is no more relaxation. Like it feels like the body is going down, down, down. And
Is there something bad about that?
it's unsettling, scary.
Like exciting, scary, or scary like fear.
I didn't hear you.
You say it's scary. It's an excitement of scary. You know, like when you do something for excitement, and it is scary a little bit, or is that
No,
more like fear?
yeah, it's fear. It's like I'm not landing. There's an expectation to land somewhere, and I'm not landing.
So surely the only pain would happen when you hit the bottom. If you keep on falling, there is no pain.
You might end up flying.
Yes.
Is there any like I recognize that you're saying it's scary and but is there any chance you could let go into that fear and see where it took you?
Yeah, it doesn't take me anywhere. It's just
Hmm.
I remember you said once about there's nothing to fear. There's nothing that needs protecting,
Yes.
and I feel unsafe in my body. I feel we have this in this building, like a very shitty elevator, and it's sometimes it stops suddenly or it makes noise, and it's scary to be in this elevator. And every time I go into the elevator, my body like contracts, and it's like this feeling of it something will happen, you know. And
Yeah. Yeah. And how many
I
times
try
is it? How many times have
what
you been in that elevator? Hundreds of times.
every day.
Yes,
Every
hundreds of
day.
times. And has it ever hurt you?
No,
No. But it always has the
every
potential.
time,
Yeah.
but every time it give me the same reaction. And
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I have this almost dreamlike story that says if I'm in an aeroplane and I'm flying along at say 30,000 feet, and all of a sudden I get thrown out of the aircraft and I have no parachute or anything, I'm falling, and I recognize that I've got maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds or 50 seconds or something before I hit the ground. Am I going to spend that 50 seconds worrying about what happens when I hit the ground? Or am I going to come to terms with it immediately and enjoy the feeling of air flowing over me and feeling the ground, feeling the air as I fall to the ground? No, it's not like I have a choice, of course, and I don't know what would actually happen. But it seems to me that if I accept the moment that I realize that I'm falling, if I accept that what is happening is inevitable and there's nothing to do but go with it, I don't have a choice, that at least I'm not going to suffer for the last few minutes, the last few seconds of my life. Or I could worry all the way until I hit the ground. And how sad would that be? Now, that's a metaphor for me about the very portal that I fell through when I woke up, that said, whatever I become aware of is already done. It's already finished. And it's absolutely crazy to even have the idea that it should be different. That's what a waste. And that's what that's going to do is corrupt my next moment. So if I accept it as already done and finished, and there's no fighting it, what there is a perspective that allows me to learn from it. Now, I know that's all logic, but for me, it was the portal that I fell through. And so for me, it was a life-changing realization. And I suspect that every time you get in that elevator, you're given the same opportunity that I had when I woke up.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I like. I find fear is interesting. I don't know. It's just even when I was a kid, when something scary happens, like I remember like in the night, one night I was like, there's some area that was dark and there was trees and I saw like a shape, like a shadow, like far away, and it's probably like shadow of something like, but it felt like there's someone like standing there
Mm,
and
mm.
it's looking at me. And I remember as a kid, I stood there and I was scared like shit, like I was freezing, and but also I was curious. I'm looking like I don't know, expecting something to happen or what. I don't know. I couldn't stop looking, and nothing happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting, that, isn't it? My daughter, who is now well and truly into her 50s, as a really young girl, when we used to read stories to her in bed when she went to bed, she always wanted a scary story. She loved it when we scared her. So we told her horror stories and she just get you really scared, but she was so excited about that. She said, more, give me more. So there's human nature, there's a really interesting thing. We can be really scared, but we can kind of like it. Strange, isn't it?
It is what David said before about there's a very close association between fear and excitement.
Yes.
And they're almost the same thing. They can be. I think it's really interesting that you have this elevator that gives you the shits almost every day, and your fear feeling when you go into it when you're lying in bed is a feeling of falling. And I just find that quite an interesting correlation that you're which originally when we were talking about that was around feelings, I think around this relationship, which I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of what you were saying about that. But when you're talking about feeling those feelings, it was a sense of falling. And then this elevator, which causes you to contract and things every day. And I wondered if you've ever had an experience of actually being really scared for your life, that you think you might die in the next like few minutes and then not dying. Have you ever had anything like that?
Yeah, I felt something like that, but there wasn't like an actual threat. Like I just felt like I'm gonna die. I don't know why, but I'm gonna die. And I'm also something I have fear of height, and I used to have a lot of dreams of falling, usually like falling backwards from like a tree or something, and I wake up like and freeze. I can't move, and
What
uh,
what do you think about the idea of So Vince's story that he just told about, you know, going into a plane and ending up outside of the plane without a parachute, and just deciding that he's going to allow the fact of that situation to just be, and not, you know, make it worse by making his last 50 seconds even worse. What do you think about the idea of going into your elevator each time maybe that you remember and thinking, this might be the end? And then when you get out, when it delivers you to the ground floor and it hasn't been the end, you go, oh my God, I'm still alive. And today's a beautiful day.
I think that happened.
It does happen already. Yeah.
Yeah. I try to exaggerate like this fear and try to imagine like what will happen, like indulge this fantasy, and
Yeah.
but it doesn't change anything really.
We've all had a bit of fantasy like that. I used to have one where I'd be in an elevator and it would be falling to the ground, and if I jumped up in the air at exactly the right moment when the elevator hit, that I wouldn't be annihilated. By jumping into the air. I can't remember when I had that, but I used to think about that a bit. Yeah. So does your building also have stairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't use them. You go in the elevator, eh?
The first couple of week or so when I came to live with my grandma, I actually used the stairs because I was scared of it. It stopped to it suddenly I was going down and it went up by itself, and I was scared like what the hell. And when it goes up, when it went up, the last floor, it even goes above the last floor, and then it goes down again by itself, and it was a scary experience. And
It's a crazy elevator. Yeah, wow.
yeah,
Yeah. And so this idea of control is totally gone. You know, it's random. What's going on? Wow. Yeah, that's
exactly, like I can't stop it, I can't,
yeah.
it's doing its own thing. And I didn't use it for a week or so, but then I used it again, and it still scares me, but so what, like.
Oh boy, that elevator is a gift for you. That is great. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're laughing, but it's kind of not funny in some ways, is it? Yeah.
No.
I mean, the fear is real, of course, the fear is real, but can you see that the fear is based on some stories that you've got going, you know, some ideas about what could happen, even if you don't articulate those stories, they still exist. And that's what you're responding to with the fear. The fear comes out of an idea about what could happen. Do you see that as it's happening?
Mm.
Do you see it after it's happened?
I don't know if my initial experience is that holy shit, I'm not in control, like something is, the elevator is going like the opposite of my will or something.
Yes. But even not being in control is the consequences of not being in control are what you're afraid of. So not being in control is the first line that you recognize is associated with the fear. But there's no what it's the outcome of not being in control that you're really responding to, isn't it?
I think falling.
Yes.
But I feel like it's all the same.
Well, it is. It is. They're the same thing, really. Yeah.
What do you mean it's all the same?
Like falling is a kind of losing control. It's like, but
Yeah.
I was thinking about the fear of death, and I don't remember like having fear about death specifically, like an image of dying or whatever. I haven't have like fear of death. Maybe I have fear of like an accident or falling, or and it's like the word death is like a blind spot. It's like an aim that doesn't have any.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm thinking that my mind is just um, hiding the fear from me, or I'm not sure.
So you said that when you do kind of lie down and feel it, that you can let go into it a bit and like let go into the fear, and what happens is that you just keep falling. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
So there isn't a kind of so so what's frightening, this is a question, sorry, I'm saying it as a statement, but is what's frightening the sense of continually falling?
Yes.
Right.
And
And that just doesn't stop.
yeah, and the idea, like, if you ask me, are you afraid of dying? My mind will say no. I don't understand what that even means. But I must be afraid of dying, like,
We,
because it's all the fears leads to death somehow,
okay, so
like
let's look at that.
logically. And
Yeah. Let's look at that a little bit, because it's a funny area. I can imagine that nobody is afraid of being dead, because when you're dead, you don't feel anything. Now, maybe if some people have a certain kind of religion, they might be afraid of what they imagine might happen when they're dead, if they're going to go to hell or whatever. But logically speaking, they're not going to feel anything when we're dead, are we? So nobody's going to be afraid of being dead. So are we talking about being afraid of the process of dying, of the pain involved in actually doing the dying before we actually are dead, on the way to being dead? Does that make sense?
I imagine dying like falling asleep. So it's like
Right. So there's no pain
it
involved.
doesn't.
Yeah, it's just fading out. So let's be more specific then. So don't arrive at, and I saw you just do that, maybe arrive at a conclusion that it must be this or it must be that. Okay, so we want to look at what is actual rather than what our ideas about what actual is, unless our ideas are what is actual and that we're relating to them. So do you imagine that somebody who is dead feels nothing? I do. Do you? How
I
can,
don't
how
understand the
can a,
question.
a corpse, somebody who is dead, a corpse, they don't have any feeling, do they?
No,
So they
I
can't
don't
feel anything.
think so.
So there's nothing to be afraid of when you are dead. But when you're alive and not yet dead, we talk about a fear of death, but we don't specify it. When we specify it, we say, have you got a fear of being dead? Well, how would you have a fear of being dead when you know that the corpse doesn't feel anything? There's nothing to feel, so there's nothing to be afraid of. So what we're talking about isn't after death that we're afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of there. What we're talking about is something, it's a monster under the bed. It's something that is never specified. So when somebody is afraid of death, they're not afraid of being dead. What are they afraid of? Most people probably couldn't tell you. They're afraid of a painful dying process. Well, if you imagine that you're just going to go to sleep and not wake up, there's no pain in that. So you're not afraid of the process of dying, if that's how you imagine you will die. So what is it about death that you're afraid of? What's to be afraid of with dying?
I think that it's not necessarily the actual being dead or what pain. I mean, I think there is the process that some people fear, but I think there's a big fear of not being here.
Okay. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
But I'm here, I'm not over there. I'm not afraid of not being over there, am I? But I get what you mean. I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying, let's keep looking at this and get closer and closer to what it is we're looking at. And maybe if we look at it closely enough, we'll reach a point of no fear about it. Because what we're afraid of is what's unspecified. What we're afraid of is the monster under the bed that we never see. We only imagine it's there. So you can fall, if you're falling, now certainly if you're falling with your back first down, you're more likely to have a feeling of loss of control, right? You're helpless in that falling. So that can engender something, a feeling of fear. But if you're falling and you're never going to hit the ground, there's nothing but a sensation of falling. There's nothing to be afraid of in that, is there? Yet we do feel afraid when we imagine it. It's interesting again. Let's look at it closer and closer. Let's really specify what it is that we're imagining and that fear is associated with. Yes, go on.
Yeah, I'm also wondering about this actual sensation that you've got, Ramiz, of falling. Because as we said before, excitement and fear can be pretty much the same sensation. And we've just put words on it by saying that it's a feeling of falling. But I'm wondering exactly what that sensation is, like how does it feel? And I mean, obviously you would put more words on it to explain that to me. But I guess I've had experiences such as feeling like I'm really anxious and then going into like the physical sensation and recognizing that actually I'm hungry, or that it's something not quite the same as the words that I'd put on it.
Yeah, I can relate to this.
that, you know, that feeling when you go over a bump when you're driving and you kind of lose your stomach a little bit. That's a kind of sense of falling, or can be. And that can also be the kind of feeling that you get with anxiety, or at least that I get with anxiety.
Yeah.
And often anxiety is like a nameless kind of fear. It's a fear of something that you don't exactly know what it is. And to me, that sounds a lot like the feeling of falling where you never land.
It's also this feeling of nausea, where like this fear of like throwing up, and it's like I'm holding myself from throwing up, like as if it's a scary experience or something. But when I throw up, actually I feel relief from this pressure. But I don't know why. It feels like physical reaction, but
Yeah. You can relate to that. I avoid
I'm
the
not sure.
at the park. You know, the Big Dipper, the roller coaster rides. I don't like to go on those scary things. And yet I know they're not going to kill me, but I don't like the sensation, that stomach up in your mouth kind of feeling. I don't like that. Yeah. So the sensation of falling, that could be what it is.
I'm not sure how much like conceptual view or ideas contribute to the sensation, or how much sensation is just sensations, and, or the body is just reacting to normal stimulus. I don't know.
I think we are talking about three things now. First, there is the death, in the sense that Vince was talking about his imagination of people say I'm afraid of death, but often it's afraid of pain, afraid of what is around, his emotion of death, his imagination. And the second one, it's an actual sensation. You can sometimes you can feel your sensational field in a way that is so different that it doesn't even feel like a body, and it can be like a falling, or it can be like limitless, and it's so different than what you are used to feel in your sensations, that it can wake up some kind of fear. So this is more in the field of sensation. And the last one is the fear of the unknown, like the mind. And death is kind of the ultimate mystery, that mind know that it cannot be resolved. So it kind of is a symbol of the unknown. Because everything, the universe, yeah, but you can find out. You can have some theory about the universe, about everything. But death is like, no, you have no way to know. Even God, it's energy, things moving around. You can make theory, that's good. Everyone loves to talk about God. But death is like, no. This is, I don't know. So I think there is those three different parts that can play along. And so I think my belief is like, you started talking about this falling, and falling, what I understood was really a sensation, it was sensing. There was something that you felt very different, that you felt usual, and that woke up some fear. And after the mind kind of kick in and say death, but in fact, the mind gets scared, but for different reasons. It gets scared because it doesn't know. It's like I don't know, and I have to face it at some point. So it's what do I do? So I think you can maybe use those two different ways to make sense to what you are experiencing. It's just framing, you know, it's arbitrary, but can be helpful. I don't know how do you feel about what I said? If that makes sense.
I conceptually understand or that dying or death is already here, is already happening in a way that even the sensations of falling, I can't understand what it is. It's just the mind tries to give it a label or create a sense of continuity to make sense of this. And I don't find myself have a reaction to the word death or like the actual body dying. I don't have reaction to it. But falling backward, I have a visceral reaction to it.
Yeah, but you see what is very interesting. It's you say a sense of continuity. And again, the sense of continuity appear in direct experience in three different ways. The first one is thinking. You have a story that you are Ramiz, that you are born, that you live somewhere, and tomorrow you're going to sleep and you're going to work. And so this is a thinking continuity. There's a story about a thinking continuity. But there is a sense of continuity in sensing the body, right? You have two legs and you are not afraid to not feel your legs in 2 minutes, you know, and your legs feel like something, you know, your body feel like you have chronic pain, that you feel like your sensing thing is not changing every day, you know, so there is a sense of continuity in sensing also. I'm saying this because when there is something that come and disturb this sense of continuity, there is often fear. Like you have your story, I'm a happy human being, everything is good, and then suddenly there is a news, you know, you are broke, you have no money, and suddenly is the narrative of the mind get break, and suddenly there is fear happening. And it's the same, I said this because it's the same in the sense of sensing. Because right now, the falling backward, the sensation of falling backward is a sensation. If you are safely in your bed and you feel that you are falling and you are really safe, my sensation, my belief is you are not reacting to a direct threat. Like there is something happening in your sense field that what feels solid and safe suddenly is like, oh no, there is no real, there's really no ground. Suddenly you are kind of sense of falling. And that it's a distortion to what you believe is normal and solid and safe. So in this frame, I'm thinking of this story because you can allow the sensation to be more and more, you know, and you can allow different way to feel your body and the objects around you. Because right now you are already free falling in the sense that there is no solidity. The sensation of solidity, it's made up. And when you start to feel like objects are not really solid and they are just sensations, it can trigger some things, you know.
So maybe it's just the body reacting to losing the solidity of the story.
Can be. I don't know. You have to check it out. But I just want to open this door, open this possibility.
And also you don't perhaps need to find the reason for it. Maybe it doesn't need to have a reason. It's just wants to be felt.
It's really a free fall into the unknown. But at some point, falling doesn't mean anything because you have to have point of reference to know that you are moving or falling or going up or going, you don't know, you know. It's like being in space and thinking I'm falling. But in space there is an up and down, right? So what you're talking, you are moving, yeah. But what are you talking about? And it's same with the unknown. You don't know already. You don't know what is death. We use death like we know what it is, you know. But what it is? Can you give me a clear description? And if you can describe really precisely what is death, what is life? And right now I feel this unknown appearing, you know, like, and the mind goes up, but there is some conclusion here, right? There will be some catchphrase, you know, some yeah, I got it or something. No, there's not I got it. There's just this. Fun. I like this image, you know, like when you are very, very hungry, and you are so hungry, and suddenly there is your base plate in front of you, you know, like, I don't know, a burger, you know, and you take the burger and you're like, oh, that will be so good, and you can smell it, and you can, oh, it's really great. And when you open the mouth, and when you are for just giving the bite, this sensation, there, this is reality. This is just, and you never bite. You just, it's a, it's a never ending. It will finish, and you can never really bite the burger. You can never really get it, but it's tasty, but you can't just always kind of fall away.
It's like it feels like a habit of grasping. It's like there's nothing to grasp for, but it happens. It still happens.
Yeah, yeah. If you see it, you see, each time you take the bite, the mind says it's a burger, but it's not. So you open the mouth again and you want to bite again, and the mind bite again. That is a burger, but no, that's not it again. Like Vince now is free falling into the energy. but 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 that's great, you know. Just just let everything go. It's fine. Just accept this free fall in all the realm possible. You don't know. You go to bed. There's a sense of free fall, but what happened? You'll still. Sometimes right now I feel I'm talking because sometimes I feel that there is something in speaking about it that kind of pleasant. It's pleasant to not allow no one to kind of move from it or give kind of conclusion because I really enjoy this feeling. And I feel right now I'm in a space like to connect to what you were saying at the beginning. Yeah, we are 4 people right now, and I don't feel that any of us is expecting anything from anyone else. There is no game, there is no right or wrong, there is no seeking. We are just here and we see what happens. And I feel connected to you. At the same time, I have no idea what's happening. But I don't feel the need to know, or the need to ask you, or the need. And I think it's a beautiful place to be in relationship.
is fear always about something that isn't here in the moment?
The experience of fear, you mean?
Uh,
Take your question. You're saying when you feel fear, is it always about something that isn't here? Is that what you're asking?
yes.
What immediately came to mind was see the question, yeah. So the tricky part of the question is it about, the word about something? So fear is a response to something that is here. But what is here is very likely about something that isn't here. Oh, I'm not meaning to be convoluted or avoid the question, but yeah, so if you're experiencing fear, what is here is the trigger for that fear. But that trigger may be about something that's not here. Most likely it's about something that's not here. But even that's tricky, isn't it? So what I see fear is fear is a way of keeping us away from something we are even more afraid of. So the experience of fear is a solution. It is a familiar, comfortable solution that we use to avoid something that we're even more afraid of. And that something is unspecified. That's why we have the fear. It keeps us away from that. If we could specify it, we would probably realize that we didn't need to be afraid of it. So fear is a reaction. Now, one of the things that you said a bit earlier that, you know, is it a physical or is it a conceptual? Well, I don't really see that you can separate those things. I think they are always mixed up together. And if you get, it's another story, but if you get right down to it, then everything's conceptual, everything. So, but anyway, so if we're experiencing fear, you can say fairly accurately that that's a response to something that's been triggered. So something in the environment might trigger that fear, but that trigger is just, it's just the stimulus for something that's held much deeper, which is another fear, which is another frightening thing, maybe. Yeah.
I'm wondering if fear is in some way a kind of control,
Yeah.
because if you can, like if you've got a fear about something, which often is an anticipated thing, it's not actually now, but there's some kind of control in conceptualizing what that is, or having some kind of idea, even if it's not fully structured. And that, along with what you're saying, Vince, whether the deeper fear is the loss of control or no control.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because you're saying a fear of loss of control. So the loss of control, because it's not actual, it's only something we're fearing. That's a story. that we're going to lose control, or that what might happen if we lose control. So that let's use that as an example. So that becomes, that's the superficial fear. That's the comfort fear, the fear that is a solution that keeps us away from an, let's say, a memory of an actual loss of control that happened at some point that did result in an actual really severe outcome. But we don't want to remember that, because that was life-threatening. You know, that was probably when we were an infant or something, and it felt life-threatening at the time. So it was really, really severe, and we don't want to go near that. So the idea of the loss of control generates a fear that keeps us away from that actual memory of whatever happened. I mean, that's a really simplistic kind of scenario, but yeah, that you get what I mean about there being a deeper actual fear there that we don't want to go near. So we generate this other fear, which is we can live with. It's certainly, it's not comfortable, but it's only a bit uncomfortable. It's not really frightening. I mean, these are my stories, of course, the way I see it. But so I'm thinking, you know, so Ramiz, your fear of falling is, let's say, it's a metaphor for some point when you did lose control, not when you lost control. Now that might be another furphy, see, but when you had no control, a time when you had no control that was catastrophic for you, or that seemed catastrophic for you. And of course, no young child has control over anything. You know, every adult seems to be all powerful, and the child has no power whatsoever. So there's no control there as a young person. And so now I'm not saying there's going to be one incident. There may be a continued line of incidences that occurred where that infant experienced being out of control, that experience of having no control. And that was so traumatic for that person that it appeared to be a survival issue. Now, we don't want to go there, because that's the actual loss of control. So there's that, we want to keep away from that. So we just have a fear of losing control, and that's triggered by the lift, or it's triggered by other circumstances.
So is the fear ultimately about sensations,
Yeah,
avoiding a sensation?
yeah. And that sensation is really the memory of the sensations that were there when you actually had no control. So let's say you're a 5-year-old, and some adult is yelling at you, screaming at you, telling you, to whatever, and making you feel, belittling you, and making you feel like you're not worth anything. That can feel like you're going to die as an infant. That's pretty severe. And if you carry that with you, if that's an experience that got embedded in you at a cellular level, it's only going to take something to remind you of that. And then immediately you're in escape mode. You want to keep away from that one. But we don't see those things until, well, we may never actually see the actual thing, but we we approach them gradually. We'll get to the point where we can allow that to express itself, and then it's gone after that. But we don't go there until we're ready to go there. We take, it takes a certain degree of I don't know what it takes, bravery, call it. No, bravery's a funny one, stupid one. But if we just, it's like I use this analogy. We want to poke the bear, but we don't want to wake it up. We just want to make it stir, because if we wake it up, it's going to jump up and kill us. It's going to eat us or bite us or something. So we don't want to wake it up, but we don't want to leave it asleep either. We want to just poke it a little bit until it stirs. And then as it stirs, eventually it'll roll over. It'll move away or something. And then we can see what's underneath it. But we don't want to wake it up. We don't want to poke it that hard that we wake it up. It's not just another analogy. So there's no point in rushing straight into these things, because it's too scary. And all it does is teaches us how to run away faster. We want to go at them a bit slower. So sure, if we bring a level of mindfulness, which is another shitty word, a sense of awareness, objective awareness of what's going on, when we start to experience these things, that's when we can get a bit closer to it. It ceases to be quite as scary, and then we can just take a step closer, and the less scary it is, the closer we can get to it. And then eventually we can see it for what it is, and it goes away. That's just another story anyway. We've all got that. Every kid goes through that. Every kid has trauma. Every kid lives in a life and death situation frequently. It's just the nature of being young and being powerless and having all these big, scary adults around who seem to have all the power.
First, great question. Very good question. I was feeling your question, and you think, and you say fear of something that is not here. And I think where you are now, you can start to investigate about things and places. Because when you say it's fear about sensations, I know that just before I use the analogy of there is perception, thinking and sensing. At some point it's a whole. It's an indivisible whole experience. You cannot really divide it. We use words to kind of to put differentiations, but they are not actual. They're not thinking and sensing and perceiving. They are not different in essence. They are all in your experience. And when you start to investigate here, what do you mean by here? And I don't want to make a whole theory, but just for yourself, really think about it and feel, what do you mean by here? If I take mushroom and I see a pink elephant crossing the road, the pink elephant is here or is not? What do we mean? What do you mean by here? Do you mean here like an object? So, or do you mean here like a thought? So the thought is not here. Thought is your mind, but where is the mind? So you can really start to investigate, what do you mean for yourself when you say here, something here? What do you mean by here? And we can do the same very fast here, and things and objects. You see, you will start to investigate both, because what do you mean by an object? What do you mean by fear, really? What is fear? You know, we say it's a sensation, but sensation, it's sensitive. It's always moving. It's like a verb. It's like a river. You know, it's always moving. So you cannot really encapsulate the fear. You cannot draw a boundary around the fear also. So maybe now you can really investigate deeply into what the concepts here, things, and fear point toward. They are they are like a road sign to something. What is the thing? What is that is pointing toward? It is confusing what I'm saying. I don't know, maybe.
No, it's good.
Okay. Okay.
Is here also, I was thinking here as now, like if I'm having a threat like in front of me here, but like if there's a snake, for example, here now, but I'm still like projecting my fear into when it will bite me, not now, but like still not here, not now.
That's the question.
I don't know. I'm just
Because you see, there's two things very interesting now in your story. You know, if you take your story, the first things, maybe you are confusing the snake with a rope, right? But if you see the snake and you have fear, it's a real snake. Doesn't matter if it's a rope to you. You have no way to know if it's a rope. It's a real snake. So it's a real snake. It's really here, and there is really a reaction, and there is all this story. Okay, so let's say there is a real snake, and there is a reaction. There's an anticipation of what will happen, but the anticipation is here. Imagination doesn't move you. It's an event that is happening at this moment. So, and suddenly you see that the snake that you saw, it's a cord. No, I know it's a rope. Suddenly everything changed. Now it's a rope. Now it's a real rope, and now the rope is here, and is here, and is real, and is now. But all of this is conceptual, because what is you experience as it appear, it always appear real. So using this word real, it doesn't make really sense. Like if I'm hallucinating and I'm seeing a pink elephant, it's a real event to me. It's a real thing. It's a real experience. Like I'm dreaming, it's a real experience. Experience is always real. But the thing is, it's not what it seems to be. So that's why the word reality it can be confusing, because we say real like we know what we are talking about, like if there is something absolute there. But you know, but there is this absolute reference is not there. So it's better to say there is experience and there is what is actual. So if you see a snake and you have an imagination about the future and you have fear arising, this is what is actually happening. It's an actual experience.
I wonder if the more there's more in examining all the different aspects of that question, like what is fear, what is now, what is always, what is, you know, what is here, all of those questions, like really digging into those things is more important than finding the answer to the question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, as soon as we dig into them a little bit, the question becomes ridiculous. Is it in here, or is it here, or is it in here? Is it, is it so where there's a snake a meter in front of us, is that here? The anticipation of what might happen is closer. That's here. So yes. So the closer we examine, and every single word in the question, every single word in the question bears examination, and every single one of them, when we get close enough to it, makes the whole question ridiculous.
Yeah, Jen, and many questions, they are not really questions, they are affirmations.
Yes.
Many of them. Because in the question, if you have to accept many things to start to answer. You have to accept that, oh yeah, I know what is fear. I know what is the nervous system. I know what is an emotion. So I will answer you. But no one knows what those things are. We think we know, but really, you know what an emotion is. Like really? No, you feel them, but you know what it is really? No, we don't know. We just through words and we speak. So I think, yeah, Jenny, it's very good what you are saying.
But when we examine the individual aspects of that question, we don't want to ignore what stimulated the question. We don't want to ignore the sensation, the experience, which might be the fear. We're experiencing fear. We can examine what that's about and end up saying it's nothing, but it doesn't mean that we didn't experience it.
Is there a conceptual way to describe the actual more accurately?
The more accurate you try to be, the less chance you've got of being able to do it.
You're on fire today, Ramiz.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is the fear of the unknown. But at the same
That's
time,
unknowable.
it's unknowable. I mean, it's not really. It's because this is it. Like if you put your hand on the floor on earth, on your garden, you are touching earth. You are touching the whole earth. No? And now you are having you are experiencing the whole universe from a perspective. But what is here, you cannot describe it, because you cannot conceptualize it. So at the same time, it's unknowable in that way, but it also means you are completely free to put any description you want. So this is the freedom. This is the freedom we have. You can say, I'm Ramiz. I'm a person and I have choice, and it's true. It is true. And you can say, no, I'm not Ramiz. I am pure energy, dancing into a spaceless light. It's true. Why not? I mean, it's irrelevant because true and in reality, there is no absolute. So everything is fine. You want to believe it, you want, or you feel it's good. No one is wrong, and there's no opposite anywhere. I think talking is more poetic than really scientific, you know. Even if sometimes it sounds like, you know, it's very precise, but it's more poesy. The purpose is not really to reach a conclusion. It's to feel something, to have some intuition about it.
So the only thing that is actual is what you are currently experiencing. And the moment you try and describe it, you've shifted away from that. To communicate. Yeah.
Isn't the communication part of the actual experience?
It is an actual experience, but it's not the actual experience you were that you first felt. What you actually experienced is what you actually experienced. What the words you use to describe it is a different experience, not the same one, and not even very accurate, because that's the nature of words. They can't be accurate. So every time you ask why or how, you're avoiding what is actual.
But why some conceptual
Sorry, I got lost when
seem
you said
more,
why. Say it again.
why some concept might feel less accurate or less true? Like, this is not a mouse, this is a hand. It's like in science,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
it's accurate.
Yeah. So is it, yeah, well, it's a story. So it's a story relating to another story. Now the story is it's a hand, and it relates to a story about the body and about what a hand does, the uses of a hand. But that's not the hand, is it? It's only a story about the hand. This is, all we can say is it's this. And if I try to describe it, it's only about this. It's not this. So this is a big one, and this is something that might help you frequently to avoid getting lost in concepts, and that is that the absolute, the story about the absolute and the relative, right? The only thing worth considering is the relative. The absolute is actually unknowable. We have lots of stories about the absolute, but we know that they're only stories. And the closer we examine them, the less those stories are accurate. So they're just stories about the absolute. And so when you're saying this hand, are you talking about the absolute? Or are you talking about the relative? If I'm talking about the relative, it's not a hand. Even to say it's a grasping instrument is a concept about it. But yours is different to mine, even though they have the same number of fingers, but it's quite different. You know, mine's shaped like this and yours is shaped like yours is. And when I grasp, I put more force in this part of my hand than this part than you do, or less, or whatever. You know, it's like the closer we get to it, the more we examine it, the less the same they are. So the relative I just is one that just hit me then. The relative, like the absolute, is actually unexplainable. We can only have simplistic stories about them.
Is the form is emptiness, emptiness is form, pointers is what is form? Is form the physical experience of a hand, or
No.
is it the interpretation of the hand?
So that saying, I don't really know where it fits. I've heard it many times, of course, but I don't know where it fits in the actual teaching. But I presume that we're really talking about what would it be? Feta 7, Feta 6 and 7. And what that's about isn't about form and emptiness or form and formless. It's about our obsession with them. So you can say form may exist in the absolute, but we don't know. We can't know about that. What we can say in the relative is that there is the appearance of form. And when we examine it closely, that appearance of form is very fragile. And then we get to the point where we go, it's entirely created by my mind, the appearance of form. And then we go, oh, okay, what about formless? What about the obsession with formless? We've dissolved the obsession with form, and what we're left with formless. And it turns out to be exactly the same. It's just an obsession we have. So there's neither form nor formless. Neither of them actually exist. But we've got a bit of work to do before we get to playing with that stuff. That's, yeah, to jump up there and start playing with that stuff is to ignore a whole lot of stuff that it rests on that we need to get rid of first.
I don't want to go, but I need to go. I'll watch the rest of this tomorrow morning, probably. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you, Jen. That's been really,
Thank you,
really,
Jen.
really enjoyed you being here and your input. Great. That's great. Yes, thank you.
Oh, see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye, Jen. You can. I disagree with Vince.
You're allowed to. You're very welcome. Thank you.
I think you can take the free fall straight away. Why not?
Say that again.
We can jump into the free fall straight. Why taking away this possibility? You know? But at some point, and I think you start to see it now because you asked Ramiz because you asked question and after you have a smile on your face because it's funny. It's funny because we never reach any conclusion anyway. You know? And maybe this is scary. But so what? I think it's the mind. It's it's a stomach with no bottom. You know, it can really just keep asking questions forever. It has asked questions for 5, 10, 20, or 50,000 of years, and it will keep on to infinity. So when will you say, okay, I have a model, it's not true, it's not the best, but it's enough. I will just, that's it.
The thing is also like, even when I land on a model in my head, like of what is reality, it's not satisfying. It's like
Huh.
I don't like it.
It's not satisfying.
What you want is what you fear the most. And this is the situation for all of us.
So do you imagine that there is a place where you can come to rest where you know what's going on?
I don't know. And I don't know if I actually want to know that there's no more to know. Like maybe there is more attachment to that curiosity, more like the desire to know more is more fascinating than knowing actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like
but
like David's hamburger. Yeah, that that's more exciting than the actual bite. Yeah.
The mystery
one way,
is
one way you can approach this, it's this one. It's not accurate, but it's a good story. It's a good conceptual frame to approach it. This is this. You know what's happening. It's your direct experience. So when you feel that, oh, I'm curious, I want to know, this curiosity, it's an experience that is arising right here with sensation, with everything that is in your experience is everything there is to know. So you know everything there is to know already. Nothing is hiding.
That can be really disappointing for some people. They really because they think that there's something exciting to learn about. And to realize that there is nothing that can be known can be a real disappointment for some people.
Yeah, but it can be a disappointment. But Ramiz just now say he started to see that the excitement is in the seeking, the excitement
Yes.
it's in
Yeah.
the curiosity, the excitement it's before finding.
Yes. Yeah.
And this excitement will lead you, oh yeah, but so this is everything I have to know. Yes, but I know nothing about this. Exactly. It's exciting. Yes, it is.
You can see
It's
how
not like it's, it's not like, oh, this is everything I have to know. Okay, so now I'm done. No, this is everything there is to know, and it's ungraspable. It's an ongoing mystery constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to go. I'm really enjoying this. See you, see you next time.
you can see
Ciao.
we can see how excited Bianca is about it.
I'm bored to death.
Yes, you look like that. Yes, you're showing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.
And is that because we seem to be philosophizing?
Yeah, I was wondering how you said the last time about that you are bored by videos, YouTube videos about awakening with different channels. And I was wondering, am I bored because I don't understand any of it, or because I understand it too well?
Yeah, yeah, could be either, couldn't it? Yeah.
But what I also think is it doesn't really matter, because it's not about knowing, but about how to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only thing I need to know. A fear appears, let's call it fear, whatever, with something that is a workable definition will be fear for now.
Mm.
How do I respond?
Mm. So how do you respond?
Well, right now, I was bored, and I responded by telling you I am bored.
Mm-hmm. So what were you responding to? What was your boredom a response to?
Do I need to know what?
Do I
It
need
was a
to-
reaction. It was a reaction, not a response.
Yeah, okay. So it was a reaction to a lack of connection to what was going on, what was being discussed. So I don't. Ramiz asked the question. So for him, the response had some relevance. For you, it had no relevance. Yeah. But you're right. Absolutely, it's the reaction or the response to that that is relevant to us. Yeah. So Ramiz has been talking about fear, and his curiosity about fear is it about something that exists or something that is imagined to exist? That's simplistic, I guess, isn't it, Ramiz? Something like that. So it occurs to me that that question is leading us away from the actual issue, because it's inviting us to start thinking about it instead of looking at what the actual experience of fear is.
Well, for me, the question is, how do I respond to fear? Which can be imagined or real.
Mm-hmm. It actually makes no difference, does it? No, so the experience of fear is the experience of fear, whether it's caused by something actual or it's caused by an idea, makes no difference. It's still the experience of fear, which is sensations in the body and stories about impending something or other happening.
I think thinking is not necessarily diversion. I feel like sometimes it gives some clarity about the experience. Sometimes.
I agree. It can be a useful response to think about.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Yeah. So what is the point of clarity? A point of clarity, the both.
Like not noticing like, okay, this is a thought narrative and this is a sensation, and obviously in that story I'm scared about this, and like having a context about what's happening like rests the mind from going into this loop and just, okay, this is what's happening.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Wouldn't you say though that thought response, that consideration about it, is really a way to not feel it, to stop it from being present?
It might be, but I don't think it's necessarily a diversion.
Yeah.
I think it's better to talk about concrete examples, because when we go in such a level of abstraction, every one of us have very different situation in mind.
I agree. Yeah. Mm. Well,
Mm.
Johan, do you have a concrete example we could use? I'm not meaning to put you.
Maybe
Oh, yeah, go on.
um, I think my conversation with my ex-girlfriend, the two conversations, one was very confusing, and I was like neither in my mind or in my body, and it was confusing experience. The second one, I was more clear about what's happening. Like there was, yes, there was a story about, okay, we both are trying to make each other responsible for the other feelings, and that gave me clarity about what's happening, that I was able to be in the body more.
Mm. So are you saying that the clarity that you got from thinking about it led you to be more aware of your body's response to that situation?
I'm not implying causality, maybe just correlation, but uh, what I was trying to say, that it wasn't used to divert.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Well, the opposite really, in that case, it seemed to be.
Yes.
Mm. But all right, so what's your concrete example of being in the lift, being afraid that it will break and you'll get hurt? That's pretty concrete, isn't it? That one. Did you hear Ramiz earlier on, Bianca, about that? He lives in this building with a really rickety old lift that sometimes randomly does things seemingly without control. And every time he gets in that lift, he experiences a fear that well, it seems to be almost an undirected fear, but yeah, we presume that it's a fear about the lift breaking down and causing you bodily injury. Maybe that's an assumption, I guess. But that's
Yeah.
a pretty concrete example, isn't it? So no matter how you think about it, Well, maybe. Yeah. So I guess in the same way, thinking about it could lead you to recognizing that that's an irrational fear because you've used it 5,000 times in the last 2 years or whatever, and it's never actually done you damage. So that thinking could lead you to something positive. And we have no evidence whatsoever that my story about that fear of falling that is associated with the lift is actually related to some actual experience that you've had about being out of control. The survival thing, that's purely a story at this stage, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's all related somehow.
Yeah, maybe. So Bianca, what would be an appropriate response or reaction to to Ramiz feeling the fear when he gets in that lift and it clanks and clangs and makes funny noises and gets really jerky and doesn't do what a good solid lift should do? What's an appropriate response?
Well, I cannot give an appropriate response for Ramiz. I can only think about appropriate response for myself in such a situation. Because well, the things that are skillful for me may not be
Yeah, sure.
skillful for
Yep.
Ramiz.
But what your
Uh,
response for you may be a discovery for him. Who knows?
mhm.
Mm.
Um, my thinking often goes into planning, not in the sense that it can predict the future, but um, it just calms the mind. It stops this reactive this chain reaction of oh yeah,
Mhm.
oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going. And if I make a plan, and it can even be an unrealistic plan,
Mhm.
but somehow it calms down this inner infant.
Right,
Uh,
right.
oh, there is an adult in the room. So, well, with the lift, it can be that the next time this lift does something unexpected, I'm calling administration.
Get
And
some.
they have to do something about it. I want to see a paper that the lift was examined.
Mm.
I will do it or I won't.
Mm.
But just having this plan in
That's
mind
yeah.
can be enough.
So yeah. So if Ramiz, if you start imagining that because it does this creaking and shaking or whatever, that you will find an oil can and oil something, or that you will talk to somebody who's involved in maintenance in the building and have something done. That plan, because you're then in your head with that plan, takes you away from the feeling of fear a little.
Why should be the purpose to get out of the fear?
Yeah, good question. I like that.
I just feel it as my inner child is scared. I want to embrace this inner child and say, okay, it's okay, I'm here. I'm taking care.
So would you see that approach with of the inner child as changing its perspective and thus changing its experience? So a learning process, so to speak. It's not just an avoidance of the sensations of fear now, it's intending to make them unnecessary. Would that be accurate? It's not something you're going to go through every single time. You would expect that after you've been through it a few times, that fear wouldn't appear anymore because your inner child is a little much more uh, secure in itself. Whereas Ramiz, your question was implied that we're just going to escape the feeling, which means that it would most likely return next time and every time.
Yeah, my mind interpret it as avoidance or coping mechanism. In one of my sessions with someone doing like emotion work, there was a memory of bullying, and she asked me if I could, what would I do to this child? How could I help him? How could I comfort him? And when I tried to do this, he couldn't trust me.
Yeah. So your adult in the room didn't have credibility for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Bianca's adult was able to comfort the child, so did have credibility for the child. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember it's the same what Don said about this distrust.
Mm.
Mhm.
It feels like something else must play this role for me.
The adult, you mean, the adult role?
Like, yeah, like the adult role should feel safe himself. Like some part of me should feel safe so it can comfort the part that is feeling unsafe.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. This seems to be a bit of a role reversal for you two. I remember you, Bianca, talking about there being no adult available for the child. And yet here you are with a stable adult able to comfort the child, and Ramiz doesn't have that stable adult. Yeah.
Well, I feel very just teenagers.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I was in elementary school, in the first class, I thought that these 15 years old are adults.
Right. Yes. Yeah. 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 And when I reached adulthood, I realized they were all just big kids. Mm.
Mm,
So how do you find that? How would you describe it? I mean, the words I find are not really satisfactory. How do you find a stable or a strong or a how do you find a satisfactory adult that can um, give the child enough confidence for it to believe what's being given to it? Ramiz. Is it even possible?
Yeah, it seems like it's not something that I can do.
Mm-hmm.
mm. I was thinking how I was more adult, let's say,
More
part
just
of me.
yeah.
Mm, for me, it is very much about the ability to respond. And it can be found in very simple situations. That I am hungry, I need to cook a dinner. I know how to cook a dinner. I know what ingredients I need,
Mm.
and just feeling into that I know how to respond to the need of making a dinner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But there is a part that just does things.
Mm. So we don't have to find an absolute adult who is stable in every, is strong, stable, wise in every way. We only have to find, and you know, I come across some young kids who speak words of wisdom. You know, so even a young child can have exactly what we're looking for. Maybe not completely, maybe not all the time, maybe just sometimes. But yeah, so is there a part of Ramiz that is able to succor that young child to give it what it's after, even if it's not complete, always there, ever wise kind of thing?
It seems like there is like switching roles. Like I'm either the child or the adult, but not together.
Yeah.
Like I will act as an adult when I need to protect the child, so I hide the child. You're not allowed here,
Yes, yes.
kind of thing.
you know, I'm sorry, but this was exactly what I was thinking also about Dan. And my childhood experience was, I was very often sitting in the kitchen and just watching my grandma making a cake or pierogi, just sitting her there and watching. And I thought about this, that to build a trust, just invite the child. If you want, you can sit here and watch me doing whatever, cleaning the room.
Mm. Doing something you know how to do. Without doubt, your grandma making a cake knew exactly what she was doing. There was no hesitation. There was no confusion. She just knew exactly what to do. She was very sure of what was going on, eh?
At least in my 4-year-old eyes, she was very sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would it take for the adult and the child to have a relationship that was I keep wanting to say mutually beneficial, going in both ways, but we're just talking about the child getting benefit, aren't we? So what would it take for you to not hide the child while you're there, for them to allow it to sit and watch you make a cake, so to speak?
I feel like the most that I can do for the child is just to sit with the child, and that's it.
Yeah. That's no small thing. That's huge, especially if you sat with an open, inviting, comforting kind of attitude. That child would feel very secure and very calm sitting next to you. Yeah.
Sometimes there's, I don't know how often, but there's self-judgment.
Yes.
So it's,
That's the adult self-judgment, not the child, eh?
yeah. And sometimes the child also.
Okay. Hmm. So it occurs to me that the child needs to be somewhat advanced in age to be to have self-judgment. A very young child probably hasn't, or at least doesn't articulate it. So is your young child like 6 or 7 rather than 3 or 4? Or what age would you think? What comes to mind as an age?
Maybe 5, 6.
Yeah, okay. So still fairly early in the ability to be judgmental. Yeah, okay. To express that judgment.
And is it judging itself, or is it judging the adult?
Judging the adult for
Hmm.
as a child I was causing a lot of problems. I was a rebel. So
Say that word again. You were what?
a rebel,
Arable?
rebellious.
Oh, rebellious. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Right. Which would indicate to me a child with much discomfort or even pain. That rebellion is about not liking the situation and protesting the situation.
Yeah.
But the way you said it, the words you said, made me think that you were taking the blame for something. Like the implication was you had a choice to be rebellious or not, and that you were rebellious. You were a naughty kid, which doesn't make much sense here.
Yes, I'm still having this. Who is the rebel? The child or the adult?
Mm, mm,
Or both?
mm-hmm.
And they
Maybe
are
there is
rebelling against each other.
a teenager somewhere.
What?
A teenager somewhere.
A teen
Uh,
like a
We know about rebellious teenagers, don't we? Yes. Yeah. But the rebellion of teenagers is much more than just complaining. There's a lot of aggression and action in that one, isn't there? Mm. Okay, well, I'm going to go and cook tea now. It's that time.
Mm. No, yes, I just wanted to say, you really touched on something in our posts. Let's see. This last sentence, if being reactive makes you a victim, then everyone is a victim.
Mm.
You know, it was talking that I don't have the delusion of agency, but I have a delusion of being a victim.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And this being reactive means that everyone is a victim. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Right.
This is exactly how I see the world, the existence of life.
Sure.
And yes, I read it and now I feel hurt.
Mm.
Now I feel seen. This is what I wanted to express.
Good. Good. Yeah.
I have no idea what to do with it, but I'm happy with being hurt.
Good. Good.
My reaction is like, when I see this victimhood, it's like, holy shit, like I should not be a victim.
Yeah. Well, to put it into context for you, Bianca defined reactivity as being a victim, and then my response was that, well, then everybody in the world is a victim simply because everybody spends their whole time reacting to things. It's what people do. They react. We wake up and we react. We react to stories. We react to circumstances all day, every day. Yeah. So in a sense, nobody has agency. They're just victims of what goes on. Yeah. But we need to extend it a little bit about how do we react to our victimhood? How do we respond to our victimhood? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But I love that you're being heard. You feel heard. That is brilliant. Yeah, that's so important to me, you know, that people feel heard. That's where so much healing comes from, just that. Yeah. Now I've got tears in my eyes. All right. Okay.
Okay, now I will let you
Thank you.
go eat your breakfast
Okay.
or whatever.
Yeah, my evening meal. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's breakfast for me.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.